one idea can change the world. And
I just don't
do
you think there's an original idea out there? Like, do you think
absolutely.
Original ideas exist?
Yeah, I do.
And where do you think those are created? Like, I think I do.
They're
think
created
they
in the
exist.
minds of people who get paid a lot for paintings.
I don't agree.
All right, guys, welcome to Waiting to Dry. It's a podcast that will not do Skype interviews with their artists, guests, because we are too good for that.
Yeah, standards set them.
Yeah, we will travel for them, but not too often because California gas prices suck.
Yeah,
but yeah,
the struggle's real.
Exactly. This summer's here, but my name's Sergio Lopez.
I'm Josh Lawyer.
And our first return guest, actually, is Jason Avery.
Yes.
This time with new and improved mic setups and a mixer and everything.
Yeah, after that shitty audio, we had to run this back.
Yeah.
Play redo.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
That's cool. I'm like the first return guest.
Yeah. I know.
I'm honored.
You're probably going to be the first and last for a while, because I have this weird goal where I want to have no return guest for a year. But since your audio was so bad, it's like we got to redo that one, because it was so good of an episode and the audio was just so disappointing.
It was crazy.
Yeah. So
was that the one? Were you super sick on that one, Josh, or was that?
Well, the next day I was super hungover.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I drank a shitload of wine that day.
Yeah, you did.
I think 2 bottles or something like that, really fast. That was the issue, was when we started this show, it's you get these nerves. So my instinct is always let's drink those nerves away.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, yeah.
And, now we just drink the time away.
Yeah, now I'll drink a beer or two, but the drunk thing doesn't work. That was you were the learning lesson for me that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although we did,
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I got a problem.
We did do that one with Nate that you heard all the beer cans opening, but I mean, it's Nate Van Dyke, so you're not going to not drink on that one.
Yeah, pretty much. You just match your guest.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back.
How you been?
I've been great.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Painting a lot.
What have I been doing a lot of?
You're still sculpting?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got some clay and I started sculpting.
That's cool.
And I'm just kind of exploring that with no training. So
Sure.
It's kind of interesting it really was just a direct experience with the medium. I feel like a kid who never had been to the beach, who went to the beach and realized you could make stuff out of sand.
Right.
That's what it feels like. And then I'm watching it. I made a whole figure and then I just let it dry and watched it crumble.
Yeah.
And then I reconstituted the clay.
Right. So you broke it back down.
And now I'm going to make another one. And
nice.
But I've actually been doing a lot of sketchbook work.
Oh, nice.
And I'm working on a whole new body of work.
Nice.
That's totally different than anything I've ever done.
Uh-huh.
But
is that scary?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's I'm actually.
Oh shit! Sorry, fuck. God damn it!
So popular.
I should off my phone. This happened last time, and
yeah, happened with Brave Castle.
Yeah, I'm a horrible human being, and I told myself too that I should put my phone on silent, but god damn it. Sorry guys. But continue.
Yeah. I was just having a conversation with an artist in Texas the other day about that very thing, of how scary it is to try to step outside of
comfort zone.
Yeah, and how easy your comfort zone pulls you back.
Right.
And we're actually gonna we're gonna Skype on Sunday
Nice.
and just have like a head mash session because we're kind of both trying to do the same thing. And it all came about because of a, Instagram text messaging back and forth that turned into this conversation.
Isn't Instagram great? I mean, I honestly,
Instagram's great.
for communicating with artists.
Oh, for sure.
I really enjoy
Oh man,
that.
it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely it's for us.
Yeah, it really
It's
is.
for us.
Yeah.
And there, it's filled with all this other stuff now, but
Yeah.
Hey, don't take
For
my
sure.
memes away.
Oh yeah, and memes. I know. I had to like put a stop to my meme
Really?
consumption. Yeah. It's so distracting.
Yeah, for sure.
It's horrible.
I mean, I'm not part of that group. I feel like most of my memes get consumed, or I consume most of my memes from Sergio probably, which isn't even that much.
yeah.
It's not even that much.
It's
But actually, on that note, I got into Will Sasso's Instagram recently and went on a binge of that because he dropped it on the Break Castle podcast.
and that's New York.
Oh, I don't know this one.
Will Sasso, he's like do you know who Will Sasso is?
I don't.
He's a comedian, or he's not even really a comedian. He's like a sketch comedy guy.
Yeah.
He was on Mad TV, and he's been doing these funny like things on his story where he'll just like show a slice of pizza and he's like, "Now that's New York." But he's from Canada, and then like.
But the funniest thing is when he goes to he'll go to chain stores in Madison Square. What is it? Madison Square Avenue. What's it called?
Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden, and he'll go to McDonald's and he'll get the authentic taste of New York and go to McDonald's.
Right.
Me order a cheeseburger.
And then he'll say blah, blah, blah. And then he'll cut in Alicia Keys singing New York. That was my horrible singing, by the way. My voice cracked and everything. But yeah, back to what you were saying. Sorry.
This is what the podcast is these days.
It's turned
us
into
derailing.
That's what it's for.
We're just a train with a cliff ahead of us, and we're just.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you've been changing your stuff up, and do you want to talk about the direction you're going into?
Let's see.
I mean, you don't have to.
I'm just trying to find a way to articulate it.
Yeah, that is tough.
I mean,
that's another great thing of Instagram is people when they find out I paint, they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "I'm just gonna show you."
oh yeah, I don't even answer that question.
Yeah,
It's like,
it's like, let me just show you real quick because I don't even want to say.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything that you're dissatisfied about your current sort of direction that you're going that made you want to change?
I felt I'd been writing a lot, and I felt like I wanted to address. I wanted to make it more personal, so I had to kind of go into my history and things, and I wanted also to I wanted to tell better. I wanted to tell a story. I'm working on telling a story.
Nice.
And
suck it, Sergio. Sorry, this is a long conversation.
Yeah.
Stories too,
Yeah, I felt like
I just don't like to share them.
The work was I felt like I was falling back into old patterns, and I couldn't break out of certain,
in your life or in your art.
In the work,
Okay.
I couldn't break out of certain subjects, certain ways, and also I was just trying to get into allowing the medium a little more to dictate how the pieces ended up. I wanted to create open-ended pieces too, where it was I left myself time to really just start with almost no beginning idea or other than a title.
Okay.
So I have this little Moleskine book that I've just been writing words in, not sentences, literally just words. I'll think of a word, it'll pop into my head, and I'll write it. And it's a titles, and I'll just kind of start with kind of that, and the concepts of like what that might look like,
Right.
and then I start from there. But what I found was, and also I wanted to paint really big. So what I found was, like, you know how hard it is to make big paintings. It's hard.
Oh yeah.
And so I found that I couldn't, if I would just try to start with a big painting, I would from a word or a sentence or a phrase, I would get stuck real quick. So I had to start making a whole bunch of little tiny sketches and things where I wasn't concerned about the quality. I wasn't concerned about.
Right.
I was just painting like a little kid would paint.
Yeah.
And just not even. So that's what I've been doing.
That's
and
cool.
it seems really weird because it's like, well, yeah, I'm painting, but it's been a long time since I actually finished a painting, like an actual painting. But I feel really good about where it's going. And I haven't been showing it. Like, I haven't even been showing it on Instagram because have you ever had this on Instagram where after a while, like, people re-share your work, but you put up something that's not done, and they reshare that.
Yeah, that's happening.
And that started to kind of get to me, and I liked. I got kind of stuck in the Instagram thing of like doing some work and then showing it to the public, right? And then and I started to get kind of uncomfortable with doing that for my, like, because it made, I was focusing more on I don't know, I just personally felt like I was trying to create this online persona and curate this sort of thing, and I didn't like how much time I was spending not painting and sort of doing other stuff. Like, there's all these things you can do, like you can go and do like a live, like you're painting live, you know, but you have to spend all the time to set that up, and then you do it, and you're not really, like, I realized that I can't really paint good when I'm doing that. Because there's this stuff in the way, and
that's like, I've been doing like drawing things, and I always do it like way at, like, when I, like, it's all the easy stuff, like I already knocked down all the, like, the hard parts,
right?
And now it's just like, all right, easy shit, let's just do this part, and like that's when I start the time lapse, because
you're just doing the work, like you've already conceptualized, and you've done the compositions, you know where it's going. So
then I just like, all right, now let's do all the simple stuff that like is like easy just to knock out real quick, because it would be impossible. I mean, for me, it seems like it would be really, really tough unless I had a different setup. I don't know. Yeah, still figuring that out.
And I was like doing that, and then and I love it when other people do it. Like when I love seeing like people's studio process and things like that. But I was, because I started working with an entirely new process, I didn't know what I was doing. So there was a lot of false starts. There's a lot of stuff that comes out that's just crap. You know, it's not,
for sure,
it's not in any way like a finished, resolved
that's
thing.
Cool. I mean, so at least you're allowing yourself to go there.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of back up and say, okay, like I'm only going to like post like completed stuff for now.
Okay.
Which is funny because that means that I'm barely posting.
Yeah, for sure.
But you know, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, you know, I've really started to like more get into the work in as a process of, I don't know, like a ritual.
Right.
And the paintings are becoming kind of ritual. That's actually, if I had to sum up a concept of the new work, it's kind of like asking the question if is it possible for me to create like a relic, like a spiritual object? Can a painting be that? Can I make
like an actual, like, do you mean like a symbol of one, or do you mean like an actual like presence of some kind of like spiritual thing?
Yeah. Can it have that feeling?
Like the feeling of like God or something?
No, the feeling of something that is like a bridge. Or tell that kind of story. And one of the reasons that I'm doing that is because a bridge between here and
the The unknown.
sort of an unending kind of place.
Huh.
That can it speak that about that without just depicting some kind of generic trope of referencing some kind of specific thing.
Right, like some past religious.
Yeah, like an icon. Like, can you create an
Sure.
like can you create like a almost like an icon that has nothing to do with the sort of stereotype of what you would think of when you think of like
Right.
a religious icon?
Right.
Can it be that way? Can it be some kind
That's
of?
pretty interesting.
I suppose you can, but how would you make it read that way to people who don't?
Well, I think that's
understand it?
the challenge,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's what it is about.
That's the challenge of it. That
Can you
like
make it?
that.
Can you
Yeah.
make it feel that way?
Yeah.
You know, and can you do it just by approaching the work, approaching the actual painting as a spiritual process, as a ritual, like.
So, like,
Can you put yourself in that? There's a lot of like, I don't know if you've read any Joseph Campbell, but there's like a lot of, I'm starting to deal with mythologies.
Right.
I'm doing a lot of reading. I've been watching movies that are revolve around that history and that, and also like books that are in the genre of magical realism, which kind of cross that balance where part of it is like mundane reality, and then there's like all this crazy like shit that happens like animism and you know things like that.
What does that mean, magical realism? Is that a genre?
It's like a genre.
Oh, okay.
it's called science.
It's called science.
Sergio.
You know Gabriel Garcia Marquez?
I know the name. I don't know anything about
Yeah,
him.
wrote 100 Years of Solitude. It's a dope book. Check it out. And Haruki Murakami.
Okay.
That's another one. Those are like, they're.
Sorry, I don't read.
Like, I don't read. I don't really read.
I audiobook every once in a while, but
you know what? I just saw an awesome. Since we got to talk about at least one movie, right? I just saw this amazing movie the other day. That it's called El Norte.
Oh.
Have you seen it?
Yeah.
It's from the 80s.
Yeah.
yeah, I've been
It's
meaning to
amazing.
watch that.
And it tripped me out. I'd never seen it until a couple days ago. And I mean, it's really like, I guess it has a huge, like right now is like a good time to watch that movie.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's about this guy, like his brother and sister who are in Guatemala.
Right.
And their father is like trying to start a revolution. And he gets murdered. And then the military comes for their family.
Right.
So the brother and the sister are trying to escape Guatemala. So they go
Spoiler alert.
They go from Guatemala to Mexico, and then from Mexico to America.
Right.
And it's the 80s.
Right.
But what's crazy about the movie is that when they're in Guatemala, they're living with like indigenous like history. And during the time when they're in Guatemala, there's all this really trippy shit that happens. Like there's these sisters that are these old women that are kind of like oracles, and there's animals like deer that come up and to the people, and like there's random people like flowers and mushrooms growing and all these sort of visions, and it's very like nature and all this old stuff and the way they dress, and then as they move further north, there's less and less of that. And the actual way the story is told, it's told in a more and more kind of like mundane, modern, realistic way. The further they get, and by the time they get to Los Angeles, there's none of that, and they have to do all this stuff like sell their grandma's real silver, sort of religious icon thing, like to get money to get out of Tijuana, and like
Right.
and what ends up happening, is they're faced with this choice of like, do we, in order to be here in this place and survive in America, we have to give up what we were.
Right.
And at that point, like, the film turns into just this, it's devoid of any kind of that magical realist sort of bent, or filming, and then there's just a brief moment at the end where the man sees his father, and some of that stuff happens in the movie, and
That's awesome.
but it's that idea that there's more than just this,
right?
Or
even if there's not I feel like art gets the freedom to do that. So sometimes art takes itself to like.
I mean, I think art is that.
Yeah. I mean, I think so, or at least some weird like byproduct of something that.
Oh yeah.
We got lucky with, but I think art is the freedom to convey that without, having to be religious.
Yes.
And I think sometimes I get a little upset. Maybe not upset, but I mentally push back when artists don't allow themselves to like even dibble dabble in it. They just want to paint real shit. You're like, I mean, like it's like photorealism. You're like, like, don't you guys just want to like enjoy like the fucking magic of it sometimes?
Sometimes it transcends that though.
Yeah.
Like, do you know that guy?
It's not
Sergei Marashenkov, the Russian painter.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And he paints like these young girls,
right?
Super realistically, and it's really sensual and kind of erotic, but he's all about technique.
Right.
When you look at that stuff, or when you look at Andrew Wyeth, like it is really focused on that realism, but it has like this kind of magical thing.
Yeah. I mean,
I kind of know. I think I know what you mean though. Like when people do like the street scenes where it's just so photorealistic.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, is that a photo? No, it's a painting, and that's cool. That's kind of like a cool thing. But then at the same time, it just is like a gimmick almost. I don't know. At some points. I'm not saying all of it either.
You're like, whoa, that's like a dirty little town in middle America.
Yeah.
It's so technique focused that there's nothing in the artist that you see really.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think that's so important. It's it's one of those things. But that's cool though. So in that movie, you think the idea is the loss of culture? Or do you think it's like actual like something more than that? I gotta watch that. I've been meaning to watch that movie, but foreign films are just fucking hard for me to watch because usually I watch paint, so I paint while I'm like listening to a movie.
Oh yeah,
and that's how I like consume most of my stuff. So
yeah, it's impossible to look at subtitles while you're trying to paint.
Yeah, and this one's like half in Spanish and half in English.
I've started it before and then been like, oh, I didn't know this foreign film, even though it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, I can't watch movies when I paint.
Really?
A lot of people do though.
Yeah, I do pretty much anything, like any kind of sound, I'll consume it that way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's an awesome sounding movie. I should definitely check that out.
It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in years, but
and it's weird that I ended up just random, like it was,
how'd you come across it?
Well, actually, I mean, my girlfriend brought it.
Oh, okay.
And she's been really tuned into all these really great foreign films lately.
Oh, okay.
So she's been turning me on to. She's always turning me on to like really great stuff. So I mean, she brought it. We watched it, and it just kind of hit me. Where everything, it fit into the line of like the stuff that I was thinking about in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And as in a visual kind of way, because then you have you have the literature. I've been pulling from a lot of like literary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I found that inspires images in me, like
oh yeah, definitely
words and song lyrics and titles.
Yeah, a lot of the reason I wanted to be an illustrator was because of all the images I had in my head from reading and stuff like that too.
Oh, okay.
Back in the day.
Right.
Do those like spiritual or religious or whatever archetypes, do they are you trying to stay away from those things though?
I'm not sure, because there's definitely so part of this is that religion, not spirituality or anything like thing, but religion. I grew up with that, and it was always a source of like skepticism for me, and anxiety and kind of confusion.
Right.
But it was around me. Mm-hmm. And the place where I grew up was very, culturally homogenous.
Right.
So there wasn't that much difference. And so you have this place where that religion is, even just being in America, like so much of our literary references, movie references, like that certain, like, religion is like all around you in the books we read and movies we see. There's symbology and all these things, and it's embedded in the culture.
Yeah.
But I kind of thought that and religion has been really closely intertwined with painting ever since the beginning of painting.
Sure,
And in the beginning, probably the first paintings that were made as a spiritual tool.
For sure.
The first paintings were cave paintings that were made in places where people gathered to attempt to express the strangeness that the magic of like the fact that they were alive. And they didn't know anything about science, or they didn't know why they were here, or why the sun rose, or why the moon came up, and they just knew that they were there, and they turned to painting to sort of begin to try to teach and express or ask questions about why are we here?
Maybe.
What is why does all this stuff happen? What happens when we die? And then it kind of, and then, you have the whole, like the history of Western painting, Eastern and Western painting was always closely tied with like religion.
Right.
And spiritual expression.
Mm-hmm.
So I started thinking about that in terms of like, those things have always been on my mind. I've always been a student of religions and really always been curious about them and read a lot about them. And I wanted to I felt like that was not really, it was always probably present in my work, but it wasn't really at the forefront. So it's kind of like trying to bring that forward a little bit.
Okay.
Because I believe that in some way that's a very cross-cultural, everybody can relate to that question, at least.
The question of what happens after, or
no, just the question of why are we here? Like, about myths, like wondering about myth, creating those stories, or living those stories, or growing up with myths.
Did anyone ever think about just Googling that shit?
Googling what?
The question.
Why are we here?
Josh's God is Google, so that's why he brings it up.
Yeah. All praise God Google.
God Google.
Knower of all things. Bringer of Amazon.
Google is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Being is the devil.
I like the direction. I mean, I have my qualms. Queefs, yeah. With religion, but there is something about, I mean, me personally, I think a good chunk of it is just humans trying to figure shit out. And I think science, at least for me, replaces a good chunk of that. But I still enjoy like the mystery, like it's almost like the mystery I enjoy, rather than like the actual religion of the mystery. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too.
Like I understand. I mean, I really enjoy that. Just not knowing everything is kind of like the fun part. It doesn't, like, for me, it doesn't have to be magical. It just allows us to be magical. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does. Like, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but I love listening to conspiracy theorists talk. I love that stuff.
Really?
Like, I love like conspiracy, weird, like.
It doesn't drive you nuts to hear like it does for me.
Well, sometimes it's hilarious.
Yeah, sometimes it is funny.
It's hilarious, but at the same time,
but a lot of
just
times
thinking about how people think about that stuff.
You know what I mean, like, and that part of it's interesting, but it's also interesting for me in that way where it's like, almost like listening to somebody who is like losing their sanity.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fascinating to hear somebody on the brink of
it's amazing.
sanity.
Or someone that doesn't know shit about something, but like is pretending they do.
Right.
You know, it's like someone who, like there's this podcast that I've been listening to called Art Attack.
Oh, yeah.
And they have like an artist and then this fucking art historian, and the art historian drives me crazy because she doesn't actually
Best
know
intro too, by the way.
how to the art historian doesn't know how to paint, and she's admitted this. So she'll say stuff like she knows what she's talking about, but she has no idea because she doesn't know how to paint.
It's
It
so
just
funny.
infuriates me, and that's kind of what.
Oh, I want to listen to it now.
It's actually a pretty good podcast.
It's a
I started
decent
listening
podcast,
to
yeah.
it as well. I like Justin Bua, who's the I guess he
The
started off
artist.
as a street artist, and he's mostly gallery artist now.
Yeah.
And it's him and what did you say, like an art professor, or not even professor?
She's an art historian.
Historian, yeah.
But she
has no real art training or anything. She's
Yeah.
kind of book learned, basically.
Yeah, so sometimes she'll say stuff and it's like, it's about like, I feel like it's about the technique or about something, but she has no idea, so it just ends up making her like lose credibility to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right, that's stupid what you just said there.
Right.
And a lot of times Bua will like call her out on it, or like
yeah.
which
Kind
is
of make
good.
fun of her.
Yeah, but it does annoy the shit out of it. It just makes me think that like the art historians, to be an art historian, I feel like you really should be able to put some paint on canvas in some kind of formal, like in some kind of decent way, to be able to talk about it. It's like I respect the opinion of a chef more than a critic kind of thing, because he knows what goes into what he did.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So they'll taste something and they're like, holy shit, that kimchi must have taken this long to make that shit.
Yeah.
Or like the other guy might say like, I like this dish, or you know, like I'm not trying to say they're stupid, but there is like a level of how hard it is to do something, and the effort it took to do that should, I think, add value to what's done, in my opinion.
Okay. It's got to be hard to be an art historian.
I don't know. I don't know shit about art history.
Well, I mean, sometimes I read things where, you try to speculate about why maybe somebody did something long ago.
Don't.
And it's, a piece might be interpreted in a certain kind of way
Right.
by numerous people talking about it now, but no one was actually there.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really know why somebody did what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe the artist didn't want to convey what ultimately was conveyed.
Right.
And, time changes the way we read things that happened in the past.
For sure.
Especially with artwork. Maybe, sometimes sometimes you read things about someone's work and it seems almost so the viewer is getting out of it what they're bringing to it. So everyone's going to have a different kind of direct experience with any kind of piece.
Right.
And you can kind of speculate it about it. You can speculate about it all you want, about what it means, but all artwork, whether it's, a play or a song or a painting or a sculpture or whatever, like it's going to be different for everyone.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
you can't really make like grand generalizations about like why this is here or what it's for.
I mean, there's some things like Picasso's Blue Period where you're like, that's kind of like, for the most part, it's the overall theme behind it is pretty much sadness.
Mm-hmm.
You can nitpick here and there things, but it's so obvious. I think. Maybe I'm dead wrong. I don't fucking know shit about art history.
I read those paintings that way too.
Yeah. And I feel like that's an easy call.
But he also may have just had an excess of blue paint.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any other paint.
And he was just like, I really want to paint like sad looking people.
Yeah.
Maybe. Who knows?
What came
He
first?
had a quote where
what
he was
came
like,
first, the chicken or the egg? Was it the blue paint or the sad?
Yeah, exactly. I remember him. I think it was a quote attributed to him where he's like, "If you run out of red paint, start using blue paint," something like that.
It was like actually more truthful than everything. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, because actually I had a red period and then
Yeah.
I ran out of red paint and now it's blue.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what he meant.
Maybe.
Because the rose period's pretty sad too. Those
Well,
paintings
maybe.
aren't a whole lot happier.
Yeah, exactly.
Sad clowns.
But yeah.
Hmm.
So that's cool. So what got you into clay?
I had some clay.
Oh, that's literally it?
That's literally it.
Huh.
Oh, here's a
Cool.
good story though. So a long time ago, years ago, like maybe 15 years ago, I was in the library and I found this book that some sculptor had done that was it was a step-by-step black and white photo book of them doing how do you say that?
Accroché?
Accroché.
Mm-hmm.
Where he built a wireframe for a figure sculpture and then built all the bones. Not every bone, you know, but
like rib cage,
the
legs,
major
arms, head.
bones, and it was anatomically correct. And then aside from not necessarily sculpting like every atomically correct, not aside from like not sculpting every like internal organ, but putting on all the major muscle groups over the skeleton. Because as you work with clay, like that first initial thing is going to start to get leather hard,
Right.
and then the work you're putting on top of it is a much softer.
Right.
You know, it's more pliable, so you can actually use the bones that you made earlier as a frame, and when you put the muscles over it, as you smooth them into the places where they attach to the bone, it like, and then you put the skin over the top as the muscles get hard. And what's crazy when you do it is that the areas of a person where the bones are close to the surface, because you put the muscles on correctly, those areas, like as you're pushing your kind of like skin layer on, you can feel the resistance of the semi-hard muscles and the really hard bone area.
Please don't say semi-hard and bone area.
I was trying to sneak those words in. You can, it feels like a person. It's
That's
spooky.
crazy.
That's crazy.
Spooky. But I saw this book and I wanted to do that. So I hit up a used bookstore. 15 years later, I found the damn book in the used bookstore for
Oh, really?
$5. And I hadn't seen that book since then.
Do you know who the author is?
Oh, I don't remember the name.
Did you, when you opened the book, did a feather fly out of it?
No. It was, but it may have actually been the same book from the library because it's really old.
That's crazy.
And I'd never seen it in a art bookstore, or I'd looked for it.
Yeah, because when he said there's a book on Accroché, I was like, I never even heard of a book.
It's
on
literally just called Modeling the Figure in Clay. That's what it's called.
All
But
right.
they go through that process.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty crazy.
And I've looked it up at Liège, like seen. If you look it up on Instagram, I'm sure you'll find like a whole bunch of students doing it.
Oh,
or on the YouTubes.
Or on the
Yeah.
YouTubes. YouTube's actually really bad for advice on clay, I found.
really?
Really?
Yeah, I was trying to look it up, and it's all you really get is little promotional videos for people who are trying to sell art videos.
their workshops,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
like $400 workshop, like $400
Sure,
art
yeah.
videos on
Right.
10 CDs or whatever.
For the
things
low
like that.
payments, for 10 low payments of...
Or it's super
$15.99.
amateur stuff,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
Right. Like goldfish, kind of.
Yeah, like they'll be how to model a figure, and it'll come out looking like Pillsbury, like
But did you...
It was a little gingerbread man.
But what was the model, though? Maybe the model was Gingerbread Man.
Yeah, maybe.
They're like,
Maybe.
nailed it.
I nailed it. Got those gumdrop buttons just fire.
That's cool.
So I did that, and then I came.
How long did that take you?
Well, there was one day that was like 16 hours straight.
Oh shit!
I mean, I did stuff in between, like 8 and stuff, but I just
Yeah.
I couldn't get away
Well,
from
maybe
it.
not.
I got obsessed with it for a minute, but then, I started running into the problems of the medium. Like it won't stay wet.
Oh yeah, like the limitations of clay
Please
itself.
don't
Yeah.
say that.
Mm.
I almost said moist just for you.
Jeez.
I couldn't keep it moist enough.
No more clay for you.
So and just certain areas, and also I'd never built a frame before.
Oh, okay.
Like the support before, so it started to build all the heavy clay, and it's got the skinny legs and all the clay inside the torso. I wasn't making it hollow because I wasn't intending on firing it or anything.
Right.
But I did. It was like a crash course in learning like what you can do. I realized I realized also why people like to sculpt large. Because if you do things small, like fingers are just they fall off. After 20 minutes, the hand dries out and the fingers fall off, unless you have that reinforced on every level. So I kind of had a bad frame inside of it, and but it was really cool to learn that way.
For sure. Did it open any part of your brain you haven't?
It did.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It was wonderful.
Nice. That's cool.
But it also started getting me thinking about. I made all these drawings in a sketchbook because there were all these things that popped into my head that I couldn't express in a painting. Mm-hmm. But all these concepts that I thought, I could do this with figures, I could do that with clay,
right,
or with sculpture that it wouldn't read in a painting. You couldn't make a painting and have it be powerful like that.
What do you mean? I'm a little confused. Like,
well,
could you give us an example?
Let's see. Like, I don't know if I can really give you an example, but if you make a figure out of clay or multiple figures out of clay,
right,
and then you do certain things to it, like if you did a sculpture with like a head, and then the top of the head was like, I don't know, it just wouldn't. There's things that you could have that you can make as a concept in clay, in a sculpture, that if you just drew it or made a painting of it, it wouldn't have the same kind of power.
For sure.
Because it exists in space in a different kind of way.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just like every other medium, right? Like, there's the pros and cons for each one. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a different way of speaking.
Yeah.
And suddenly being keyed into this kind of different language, I suddenly thought of all these things that I would never think of to do a painting of.
Right.
It either would not. It would just make for a not strong painting.
Right.
But as a sculpture, it could be really, really interesting. Like I had this idea of. Some of it would, I guess. It was like people with like boats, upside down boats on their heads. You do that in a painting, and it'll be kind of like but in a sculpture, if you had a whole bunch of people with like a boat over them. Just the physicality of it, it suddenly has
like a rowboat almost.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same.
And there's no heads; it's like covering their heads. But it's like you could do that as an illustration or a painting. But if you can imagine like having that as a big sculpture, it would be a really powerful presence rather than just having it be this object on the wall.
For sure,
it's in the damn room, like that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's hard to ignore that way.
Yeah. It's like you could paint a 5-foot painting of an elephant on the wall, but if you make a 5-foot elephant in the room, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So there was that, and that was fun, just to suddenly have this like different language that you could maybe do something with, or
Nice.
And it's really fun to push clay around. It feels really like primitive.
Yeah.
Like you're just and it's very messy. I like destroyed my apartment.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Well, it does. Once it dries, it starts to become powder and stuff as it crumbles. So you gotta worry about that.
And if you get like a little drop somewhere, you don't see it right away. But then you come back an hour later, and there's like this clay, like water everywhere.
Right.
To clean it up.
Do you have the clay smell in your house yet?
No, it doesn't.
Funk.
It doesn't smell like clay.
Oh really?
No. I mean, I keep it all bagged up really. It's like in a like a 5-gallon bucket with the lid sealed. So I don't have to go back and like make sure it's wet all the time.
Right. Because clay can go moldy too.
It can, I've heard.
It's supposed to be good for it, right?
What, mold?
Mold?
Yeah.
Actually don't know.
Yeah, I think it's like the moldier, the better. is what I heard on that one podcast where the guy like does like the sculpting stuff.
Oh, Sculptor's Funeral?
Yeah, he talked about it.
Yeah, I remember.
He said that it gets smelly and moldy, but that's actually good for it.
Really?
That's cool.
Interesting.
There might be different types of mold that are better for it. I don't know. You should probably listen to that.
Throw a slice of bread in it.
Yeah, throw a slice of bread.
Throw a slice of bread in there.
That's this like dumb art, like techniques.
Yeah, right.
It's just like I heard mold was good for it, so I had this bad loaf of bread.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
But I might move on to wax now.
Nice. Yeah.
So I can spend a really long time on something.
Do you want to do like cast and stuff? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, originally I wanted to fire clay. But I think I would have to work a lot more with it,
right,
to understand how to actually make something that could be fired, because it's really complicated.
You could also make cast with clay, right?
Oh, like slip casting?
Like
yeah, you can. You can do that. It's a lengthy mold making process. So you kind of have to make it, take the reverse of a mold,
right,
and then slip cast pour.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna fire something, because I really like the texture and look of fired clay, just clay, not bronze or whatever. It has like a certain kind of thing, and
yeah, almost looks like Adobe or something like that.
Yeah, and people who do it really well can make like you can make something that's very kind of like aggressive and powerful, but the clay is super delicate. And I like the idea of that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
But it is, to do that, I've realized that it requires a lot of space and time, and it's expensive to work with to get to that point. You need to go fire it somewhere. You need to have a lot of which I'm not opposed to doing that, but what I found out with wax that you can actually I can spend months on working something,
right,
and it's not gonna dry out,
right.
They
have that like waxy clay too, right? That like never dries.
Oh, there's like oil clay. There's oil-based clay. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
I
do want it to end up
still
a finished thing.
Still work with it.
That's cool. This stuff lasts forever.
I've always wanted to do like wood sculptures. That's like a real end goal for me. Hopefully I get there at some point. I'm in no rush, but yeah, it would be. That's like even my the people that I really enjoy their sculpture right now. I don't remember any of their names, but it's like amazing work, and the wood looks so soft. Just like the figurative like the people they almost look like how marble looks really soft,
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's like would be awesome if I could do that at some point.
It is really amazing how something that's really hard can look so soft.
Yeah.
Isn't it, Josh?
Yeah. It's amazing how things so hard can look so limp.
Have you seen those fetching wood sculptures that he did?
No.
You should look those up too.
There's a guy.
The real fetching.
There's a guy. They're very fetching. There's a guy. I think his name is like Stan. I think he's German. But he takes blocks of wood, like small blocks, and he fits them together almost like a Jenga.
I've seen those.
You've seen those? They're amazing.
And they have like gaps,
but
in
they're
them
missing whole. It's like Jenga with pieces missing.
Yeah.
And then he carves them into these figures, and they're incredible. Because there's like pieces missing, or he'll leave one sticking out. But they're so well articulated that it's really.
It's almost like
really
loose
cool.
brushstrokes in a weird way.
Yeah,
That's
and
awesome.
I wish I could remember his name, but I can't.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram. I don't remember his name though, like most people.
God Google. Pray to Google God.
Yeah.
Exactly. Can you tell your son Instagram who you sent to die on the cross for us? Someone should definitely write a fake internet Bible book thing. That'd be hilarious, and just replace like God with Google and Jesus with like I don't know, something else, and the Virgin Mary with Pinterest for sure. And yeah, I don't know who the devil would be. Probably
Tumblr
or the dark web.
Yeah.
Or is that hell?
Hell's the dark one.
I don't know.
Vero or something.
Oh,
Banish Vero to the netherworld.
that was interesting. That whole thing was really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I respected the effort.
Right.
Even though a lot of that shit was like, when you did a little research, you're like, well, that was horrible.
Well, I mean, I think we're in this sort of brave new world of, that type of communication. And nobody wants to get left behind.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. I'm kind of like trying to shy away from all that stuff lately.
Mm. See, I was like I feel like I'm like the opposite. Is like I used to be like the last. Always felt like the last person. Like I remember when I joined MySpace, I felt like everyone was like Facebook, and I was like, God damn it! Now I gotta do this thing now.
Right.
And so I was like the last person on Facebook, and then it's like Instagram, and I'm like, man. And now I'm like,
up.
whatever. Like, now I'm just like, all right, let's do this. This is life now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is weird because it's like these things like Snapchat and fucking Vine, they seem like they're humongous, like they're these huge things, and then they crumble like super fast for these for what they are. And it's like, it's really just these like huge migrations to like different platforms to do almost the same exact shit, which is just self-promotion and building this like this like facade of who you are as a person.
I wish Andy Warhol was still around. Can you imagine if Andy Warhol
I heard he is
had Snapchat? What would Andy Warhol do with Snapchat? I mean, it would
send
be
a lot of
incredible.
dick pics, probably.
Maybe. I don't know. Like,
I don't know. Are you a big Warhol fan?
I'm not a huge Warhol
fan,
but
the persona.
I believe that social media, he would have just ran with that and done something so crazy with it.
Yeah,
It seems like his platform. Like he predicted that the world would be this way.
Possibly.
You think he was the last big art superstar?
I mean, I think, didn't he say like one day everyone will be a superstar? Like we'll all be superstars at some point. This is where we're going. We're all like, the world is turning into
Maybe
Hollywood.
he was just being like a mom who was like, my son's a superstar.
Maybe.
I'm just kidding. I don't know.
I just think Andy Warhol on Snapchat would be incredible. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I probably still wouldn't care.
Yeah, I mean, I had Snapchat for about 5 minutes.
Or maybe his like mystique would die fast.
Yeah, maybe.
He'd
like
get lost in the din.
Or the mystery behind it. It's like meeting your heroes a lot of the time with these social media things.
Right.
Where you like will like look at their stuff and you're like, oh, you're kind of lame. Like you're not funny. You don't seem like that amazing of a human being. You're just mystery, and then once the mystery is like out there, then
it ceases to be a mystery. Yeah.
Exactly. And then I don't know, in some ways it's like great because there's some people that are like amazing and you're like, oh wow, you're like funny and talented and blah blah blah, and you're like, and you don't seem at least like you're trying, but maybe I don't fucking know. Maybe they're just super good at social media.
Yeah, he might be just like, if Warhol was still around, he might be relegated to a niche like every other so-called art superstar is these days. Like there's people like in the fashion world where like they act like they're superstars, but you don't really care about them that much.
Yeah, rest in peace, that one lady.
Which one?
I don't know.
Oh,
was a
you mean
horrible-
Kate Spade?
Kate Spade.
I don't
Yeah.
even. I've never even
actually
heard
don't
of
know
her
anything about her really.
until she died, and I was like, "Who?"
Yeah, I knew who Kate Spade was.
I was more shocked about Bourdain.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Bourdain.
That was like a real like. Whew, that
Yeah.
one sucks because
Yeah.
he's like a hero.
Yeah.
He's like the perfect combination of like good guy, manly man,
Uh-huh.
not a douchebag.
Right.
Mm.
At least from what he showed, from what it looked like, from as close as I can
From
get
the
to him.
outside.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like love him or hate him. I don't know. There's probably people who don't like him, but
Yeah,
like
MJ's mom hates him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, he's just such a you couldn't deny that he's like being an honest, genuine person. So
Yeah.
I think that's what people most got attracted to him about.
I think so.
Mm.
I think that's a big part of social media too.
Right.
He just has been doing like the people that just can't help but be themselves
Yes.
is
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like they're just like, oh, that's awesome. You are not putting up a front. Like this is just you.
You're not putting on airs.
Yeah. Yeah. Doing good angles in your pictures.
Good. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Those MySpace angles. Yeah.
But whatever. Fuck it. You do you, boo boo. Like a wise man once said. Nice.
But I was going to ask you about your sculpture. You want to, right now you're mostly just concentrating on the figure, right? Is there something that you wanted to go sort of beyond and sort of tell more stories or explore more concepts in clay more? Or you're just like right now just looking at it as, oh, this is just sort of a thing I just want to keep exploring on its own?
Yeah, I mean, once I got kind of excited about it, there's things that I want to do.
That's awesome.
But like literally, I made one sculpture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The world opens up.
I mean, I think back
And
in
now
in college, I made like a bug in wax at one
Say a
point.
butt.
A butt. Yeah, I made a butt.
Does your Instagram say sculptist?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
You should. You should
It
put
does
that.
not say sculptor. I change it a lot.
Oh, do you?
Yeah,
Do you?
I write random shit up there.
Mm.
Yeah, I
You
change it all
should.
the time.
The other day I wanted to write. What the fuck did I want to write? Oh, I just wanted to write "slow down"
That's a good thing to write.
on like as my profile
Yeah.
message.
Yeah,
Just slow down, and I was like, maybe I won't. Maybe I still will, but now that I've said it out loud on the podcast, I'm probably not gonna ever do
No,
that.
you have to do something else now.
I actually want to when I thought of that, I was like, ooh, I really like just that phrase in general. So I was like, so I just wrote it in my art ideas. I'm like, think about the phrase "slow down" and just, and just kind of all that can come with that. But yeah.
Yes.
I was just thinking, just because this, we just go so fucking fast, but there is something like us as artists, like even though social media is like the fucking art pusher outer
Right.
for us artists, it's like this pressure to like produce. But
Yes.
but
Yeah. Right.
but for the most part, I feel like most painters don't paint fast, so
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, even social media kind of makes you want to speed up a bit.
Mhm.
Like, even though just by virtue of being oil painters, things slow down
Right.
compared to other mediums. But
Yeah.
yeah. But even that, there's still like a pace that you have to pick up if you want to, keep racking up likes or followers and stuff like that too.
Yeah, and that kind of I think that can actually be really detrimental
I think
so.
to people's
Yeah.
work.
No, totally.
And I don't even think that works because, like, the last few paintings, I literally was like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to paint as slow as I want. And then I
Yeah.
got a huge amount of followers from that.
Yeah.
Just because I'm, like, doing work that I think is, like, my better work. And I'm taking my time and trying to, like, make the best work I can. And I think that ends up being appreciated more than just being, like, kind of good painting, kind of good painting, kind of good painting, kind of good painting.
Yeah.
It's it just I think people enjoy when you, even if they don't know how long you took, if they see a painting that is really good, then they enjoy it, hopefully.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and something came up in last week's podcast where we were talking about Melanie's painting and how she kept going and spent a lot of time. And she said something about a painting that somebody took a year on and just worked on it, and just it was always constantly evolving. I was like, I should just do that.
I think that was
something.
her.
Was it her painting?
That she took a year on?
For that one specifically, or was it a different painting that she talked about? I think it might have been a different painting that she talked about. But either way, it's just like, there's no reason that I'm not able to do that, and it's interesting to me. So why not?
I did throw out the idea of like having a lifelong, never finished painting. Is that what you mean?
Well, I'm not that interested in doing a lifelong painting, but a year-long painting it really. I thought of that,
but I think it would be cool if you set if you just did one painting that you just went into it with the intention of like never ever finishing.
Yeah.
And to see like what would that allow you to do? Like what would you get out of that?
You just repaint areas over.
Yeah. And it would just evolve and change, and depending on like where your head was at that time, and
right.
And you wouldn't feel obligated to commit to anything.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, it would be interesting.
And time lapse the whole thing.
I actually like when I switched back to oil paints from like my mixed medium stuff. I started this like my first oil painting. I was like, all right, that's when I came up with the idea to do that. And then Monty came over and he was shit-faced drunk, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I have this like idea to like never finish this painting. You want to paint on it?" And he was like, "Yeah." And then he like fucked up the like he did something so bad. I was like, "Yeah, never mind." Like I just was like, "This isn't the painting for that."
Lesson 1: don't collaborate on this painting.
Yeah, that's what that lesson was. That's exactly what that was.
Oh wow.
He was just super drunk and just like not doing anything. He was just fucking around. I was like, okay, well, I mean, I guess that's what I signed myself up for by telling him the whole idea behind it.
Oh yeah, if you let people paint on your paintings.
Yeah. I usually don't. I'm so fucking anti-collaboration.
Yeah.
There's I wanted to do a collabs. Yeah. There's somebody that I really want to do collabs with.
Really?
But I'm not going to name them.
Sergio Lopez.
No.
I'm right here, man.
Yeah, I'm right here, man. Let's get down with the sick collabs. No, there's somebody that I really would like to see what happens if we, did that.
Right.
It might happen.
Have you mentioned it to that person?
Yeah, we've talked about it a while back, but.
Nice. And what did Sergio say?
But it's one of those it's like
once you hit 20,000 Instagram followers, then I'll...
yeah, I don't have enough. Dude, I've lost more followers.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, they're leaving in droves. It's funny because you're like,
did you put them on a milk carton?
I don't know. I think it's just it's like if I'm not like getting a show somewhere and I'm not making and showing work on it, if I don't post enough, I think. Or if I do something in the story, it's like I'll wake up the next morning and have like 1,000 less followers.
Really?
Yeah, man. It's
Holy
crazy.
fuck.
I think
what are you showing in your story? Are you showing some like soft clay, very limped, and
No, I'm trying to think of like what. But it's weird. It's like every time I make an Instagram story where I just take some photos of stuff, people leave. It's funny.
Well, fuck those people.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. I don't care. I don't really care.
I guess. I guess you're right. At the same time, fuck you guys. Your mic? Sergio's mic's not working. Let's talk mad shit while his mic doesn't work.
Yeah.
Hey, Sergio, mic work much? I remember my first mic.
But
good times.
are we recording again?
We are recording.
All right. I think I was saying that, yeah, my followers on Instagram have stalled out. And, like, it's part of me cares, but then another part of me is like, well, I haven't actually posted anything new in forever. So,
for sure.
So I'm like, well, what do I expect, really?
So, Sergio, quick question, pretty important. Since it's summertime, like, how much work did you put on your summer hot bod?
You mean put more calories into it?
I just wanted to ask the tough questions. Questions people are dying to know. But yeah, whatever. Fuck Instagram followers. I mean, it is just a wave and then stalls and losses. It's whatever. It's like a weird video game, really.
Kind of,
if you think about it that way, then no feelings are hurt. You just play it to win.
It's like everything. It's like, what do you use it for?
Yeah.
Maybe you're trying to like sell prints and sell pins and sell this and sell that, then it matters.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're not, I mean, I'm actually going kind of against the, like, I really kind of want to just deal with galleries now. And
that's crazy because I'm almost the very opposite.
Yeah, I know. And there've been a lot of conversations lately about, is the gallery dead?
I don't think the galleries are dead. I just think my thought process is it the best way to consume art? And then if it is, then fine. But if it isn't, then like how can I rethink it to like? Because I don't think social media is the best either. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there's got to be a better way. And I don't even think it's a functioning way. Like, I don't think galleries are working that well. Like, there's a couple.
It depends on what little corner of the art market you're in.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. But fuck the art market.
There's
I don't care about that either.
Certain work won't.
That's like Instagram. It's a bunch of bullshit, really.
No, well, what I mean as far as the art market is that, you have people who make art and you have people that consume it.
Right.
And there's so many different kinds of galleries, so many different kinds of art makers, so many different kinds of people that want art for different reasons. And they're interested in it in different ways. And I believe that some of that direct sale Instagram marketing is perfect for certain kinds of collectors. Like a 16-year-old kid who has is into art and wants to buy a $20 print from people that they really admire their work, and that's one that kid's a collector, right? A certain kind of collector. Sure. And then you have collectors who, a $25K piece for them is no big deal, and they're interested in different kinds of work, right? And they're not interested in buying prints from anybody, right? Because they want the original, and that. Obviously the online market doesn't really work for collectors like that, and it doesn't work for artists who make work like that, right? Really good galleries who actually seek to find the people who need to have a certain piece, right? Or that's the only way that piece is going to connect with the people that are supposed to see it,
right? But I think, the issue I have is like the gallery then is the hype, right? Like, it's almost like if I get into the correct gallery, get to enjoy the hype of that gallery. Like, they built enough hype behind themselves to where the art buyers go to them. It's like we're playing the same game. We're playing the Instagram follower game, except for they're doing it with a gallery and with rich hoity-toities who they get to be like, you have a lot of money. We convince you that we know what good art is. Now the artist gets to say like, all right, well, if I work with this gallery, that's great for my art, but the only reason is because of the hype of the gallery. It's a good gallery.
I don't know, I disagree. I think that there are art collectors that are like there's people who have box seats courtside for the Warriors every year, and they pay an enormous amount of money for that. And there's people that collect like the gear, the cards. I mean, they're fans. There's people like that that follow the opera or music or art and some of those people, the gallery is like a river, and the artist is making something and they're trying to get it from one place to another, but your work is maybe never going to end up in front of the people that it's supposed to end up in front of unless you work it through a gallery that has fostered relationships with people who are seeking, No,
I mean, I understand the system. I just don't think that's the best way.
But I don't think that people buy artwork just because they believe it has some kind of pedigree.
Like,
there are people who do that.
Yeah.
But I don't think that actually embodies the largest part of the art collector market. People buy art because they love it. And collecting art is something that they have a passion for.
I think that's pretty true.
I mean, there are those people who do buy certain things, and there is a point where art becomes real estate. I mean, a Van Gogh painting is an amazing piece of history. It's an amazing piece of art from a very interesting painter.
Right.
But those paintings at this point are real estate.
But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you think about the galleries that you would want to work with, let's say, like, what is the reasoning for that?
The galleries that I want to work with show work that I think would communicate well with the work that I make, which is how you end up in a gallery to begin with.
Right.
That's like, I know people who I've seen people try to get into galleries where their work looks nothing like what.
Right. For sure.
I have fostered relationships with gallery owners who I would never ask them to show my work.
Right.
There's places where Sergio shows, and that I know the owner. I see him all the time.
Right.
I talk to him all the time. He knows who I am. We're Facebook friends. I just saw this one guy like a couple weeks ago when I went to the show down at the wharf at Art Market.
Oh, okay.
I talk to him all the time, but I would never ask him to show me.
Right.
Because my work does not fit in his gallery.
I mean, I understand that part. What I'm trying to say is, like, but it's almost like not like a good enough reason for, like, just because my art is cohesive with the art around it doesn't mean that.
But that also means that the collectors find that gallery because they enjoy those artists, and that's what an art gallery is, a curatorial position.
Right.
So they're picking. Gallery owners have a certain kind of ethos. Like, I would never show probably at Last Rites because I don't make that kind of work.
Right.
That's a really popular gallery that has a lot of clout, but only for people who paint in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
For other painters, that gallery would never work for them. They would never sell work there.
Right.
Because it's a different kind of work.
But see, I don't know. I just keep going around these ideas about, like, for instance, the cohesiveness of the artwork, correct? That to me doesn't, like, for me, if I look at, like, the artist that I would buy artwork from, if I had, like, a limited amount of money, there would be no cohesive to it. Like, I would buy, like, the most random shit, but it would be the people that I really, really think are the best artists to me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
I do know what you mean.
And there's no cohesiveness to it. It just is what it is. But
believe me, collectors do the same thing, and they're very much aware of who's selling what.
Sometimes
they go one place for one kind of work, and they go somewhere else for a different.
But I also think that a lot of collectors rely on the gallery, to have this knowledge that they don't about the artwork. I mean, I don't
think, like I said, I don't think that accurately describes most art collectors. I do believe that there's some people who are like that. But most people who turn collecting art into a main part of their life, they know what's good. They know what they like. And whatever I
agree with that too.
I've heard collectors specifically say to me that they've gone into galleries to look at work, and the curator there is pushing a certain artist.
Oh yeah.
Like it like in an art fair in Miami.
Right.
They really are trying to push a certain artist, and the collectors are like, stop. Like, we're here to see this.
Right.
We don't care what you think about this person.
Right.
Like, we've been collecting art for 25 years, and we know what we're looking for. Like, we know who we want, who's interesting to us right now, who we believe is like pushing boundaries, who we believe is speaking to. These are the pieces that make us excited about what
Right.
It's crazy. Like it.
I think one thing I'm like really trying to think about right now is like my intentions for why I do things, and that carries on to like the galleries and their intentions. So like for me, I'm not against working with galleries. Now I'm more like, it depends on the gallery. Like I have to feel like the gallery really is like supporting the artwork and believing in it.
Of course. Yeah.
I've
you know what? That's the other one. That's a really good point. Like, at a certain gallery is going to love you.
Right.
And when they speak about your work, when they truly love it, it comes across completely differently.
Right.
Than if they really believe in you, they're going to be able to sell your work.
Right. I mean, they're going
to be able to connect the right people with it, and your work with the right people.
Yeah.
If they're just thinking like, well, this person sells pretty well.
Yeah.
We should get them on board.
Yeah.
But we got like 25 other artists that we show too.
But I just recently did like a small painting for a gallery, and I saw the gallery owner at the Minna show this last whatever, and they were like, "Oh, did you not want to sell that painting?" And I'm like, "No, I want to sell it, or I just don't want to sell it for cheap. Like I know what it's worth, and that's what it is." And I feel like I've been getting these like subtle fucking comments like that annoy the shit out of me now, where it's like, listen, if you think that my artwork isn't cheap enough to sell, then like I don't want to sell with you, because
we were talking about this on the way down to San Francisco the other week.
But and then but then on the way back, that was after like so on the way there we were talking about this, and then while we were at the show, I get like asked that question. So it's like it's like it just is like, fuck, I don't need this. Like it's almost like I want a gallery to believe, like if a gallery tells me that they think my artwork is worth more than I'm selling it for, I might not change my price, but at least I understand that they understand the value of it. Like they understand the work that went into it. I'm the fucking chef making kimchi that takes 3 weeks. Like, don't fucking ask me why I'm selling it for this much. It just is it's a thing that makes me rethink a lot of shit, and really want to like think of like, why does the gallery think they have the ability to ask me that? And it's maybe because their lack of knowledge of how much work goes into what I just did. And I just think, I don't know, I'm just in a weird headspace right now.
Yeah, I think it's also artists not knowing their worth, or at least not knowing how to value their own work too as well. So they're willing to be like, I did it a little bit more when I first started showing my artwork, where people sort of convinced me a little bit to sell my work a little bit less than I thought it was worth.
For sure.
For the sake of like, okay, well, it'll sell easier that way, and I really need this money right now, so I better do what the gallery says. But nowadays, not only am I thinking about a lot more for myself, but also looking at what you're going through right now and how you're thinking about things, and really starting to analyze it for myself and thinking like, yeah, that does make a lot of sense what people are saying. And then been reading these articles as well that have been talking about galleries are all in flux as well. Like a lot of galleries are pushed into selling work at art fairs and stuff like that they have to spend all this time for these basically these weekend shows, what they basically amount to when they do art fairs. And so we're just talking about the pace that things are going now. Like galleries are even pushing that pace. You can see that with shows. Like it used to be kind of it used to be kind of more the norm that galleries are doing 2-3 month shows, and how often do you even see that anymore? Everybody's doing 1 month shows, and then sometimes it's 2-3 week shows. I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? They're just trying to move things out of the gallery as quick as they can for the next batch of artists that they hope will sell.
So saturated with fucking shows. It's right. What am I supposed to do? Go to your fucking gallery every other week?
Yeah, it's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, some galleries I think are forced into that position.
I think so.
They have to do that, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Which is why people are getting pushed into showing their work more on Instagram and stuff, and trying to make their own thing. Because at least even if you're not showing in a gallery all the time, at least you have the chance, if you're able to afford to do that, show your work at your own pace.
See, but my thought process too is Instagram and all that shit isn't even the best to consume art either.
No.
But then my other thought is let's say in this year, right, how many paintings will each of us create that we're super fucking stoked about?
Right.
And that's the painting I want to be seen. That's it. I don't I might make maybe 15 paintings. I want 4 of those to really be looked at.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, it's almost like that slow down comment. It's I can show everyone on Instagram my 15 paintings and not give a fuck, because it might make me a seller, might not. I might sell a print, I might not. Most likely not, because I don't really do prints. But
and you shouldn't.
but the thing is I think the galleries aren't the perfect fit, and Instagram isn't the perfect fit. So now I'm thinking Instagram works well for me to just make content, for me to show people what I actually do. And then the galleries, I want to try to make 4 good fucking paintings. And then how the fuck do I survive off of showing 4 good paintings? That's the dilemma, where it's this is what I want to show. This is my how much time I put into this thing I love. And why do I deserve to be compensated what I think I deserve based on that? And it's a legitimate question. Why should 4 paintings make me a year's wage? What I don't deserve anything from any of the people buying my artwork. But that's the the thing I'm debating right now, and just trying to figure out my shit. But I'm just trying to figure it out, really.
Well, anytime you try to run that art versus capitalism, or art existing inside capitalism, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a problem.
But it exists. I mean, music. I mean, it's not the perfect system.
It exists in paintings and sculpture too.
Yeah.
But
movies. Fucking furniture.
Yeah. It's important to recognize
architecture.
It's important to be able to recognize the value of original art.
Yeah.
And the value of what you're putting into the world, on that level.
What I was thinking about the other day was the art forms that are more spread out between the artist, and what's the difference between that and let's say our art or music or movies, where it's the 1% gets to live and the fucking rest get slim pickings. And I think there's this real aspect of hard work. If you think about furniture designers or architecture or I can't remember the other ones I was thinking about, but they're all a legitimate like hard work is involved. Like no one's saying like a carpenter isn't like a really hard worker, you know, like but you hear it all the time with like movie stars and musicians and artists where there's like this downplay of their hard work, and there's this like frou-frou fucking lazy
not using your muscles or whatever.
Well, I think it is. I mean, if you think of like, I know like actors, they work like 16-hour days or some shit like that.
Right.
Like, they work a brutal schedule.
Sure.
Like they're working hard. It's just this weird like narrative that gets played a certain weird way. You look annoyed, Jason.
No, I'm not annoyed. I was trying to think of how to work in like that. I mean, there's not a direct the art world is about ideas.
Right.
The art world cares far more about ideas than it does about technique.
Yeah, I mean,
or labor. What you're talking about is labor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't care how long you worked on a piece.
Right.
It's either amazing or it's not so amazing.
See, here's the
You
issue
can
I
overwork
have.
a piece to death. You could work on you could labor, but one good idea.
It doesn't exist.
The first time Picasso did like a face of a woman in full on cubism mode, he probably stepped back and just went like, I mean, it changed the world. One idea can change the world. And
I just don't
think...
Do you think there's an original idea out there? Like, do you think
absolutely.
Original ideas exist?
Yeah, I do.
And where do you think those are created? Like, I think I do.
They're
think
created
they
in
exist.
the minds of people who get paid a lot for paintings.
I don't agree. I think the original ideas exist in the science lab. Like, I think that's where original ideas exist. Like, that is it. Like, artists don't create original ideas.
Yeah, they do though.
Where?
I mean, of course there's
original movements.
Of course there's roots. Of every idea has a root. There's like a synergistic thing that kind of comes together, but artists have the ability to describe the world in a way that no one has ever described it before. And of course there's commonality to what they're talking about, but people make things that I see artists making things every day that I've never seen before, that I never would have. That just blows my mind. Some of them are big ideas and some of them are little ideas, but what I guess I'm saying is that, like, I want to look at like, you look at a painting or a sculpture or something and you're just like, that's so cool. Like, that's so cool. I want to look at stuff that's really cool.
But me personally, I don't think the idea, I think it's the original movement of an idea that's already existed, like in artwork. Like, I think, like, I don't remember an original idea in artwork, at least for a fucking long time, maybe somewhere, but for me, like, I can't think of one non-art historian as myself, but I think the original movements of that idea are what I get stoked about. Like, you tackled that idea super awesome. Like, you explained it in your way, which is cool.
Yeah.
What about Takashi Murakami?
Which one is that? I know the name.
Japanese.
He's the one
the
that
guy who does the pop culture-ish
invented Superflat.
I don't know what that means.
Superflat.
See, he's in
is he the one that does like the flower shit and all that?
He does do flower shit.
Oh yeah.
You've seen his sculptures?
Oh yeah.
And just everything about that was a completely, no one ever did what he's doing the way he did it before that. Like, it has its roots in all kinds of different stuff, but right. I think artists are synergists.
I
like, they take all this different stuff. Another great one is I have seen people who sort of walk to the precipice, but like, I remember when I discovered Alex Kanevsky, I had never seen that before. Or when I saw Anne Gale,
Right.
I had never seen anybody paint that way before.
Right. But I still think this isn't original. I think it's just original movements.
Yeah, I know what you guys are saying, both of you.
But it's an idea. So this is what I think this is on my...
I love, because every time me and Jason get together, we just fucking argue. It's my favorite.
This is my...
Sit back and listen.
I might have said this the last time I was on, but this is my goal as a painter. To me, this is the highest ideal as a painter, is to create an original language that I speak.
Right.
A visual language.
I think we do that in general, right? I mean, I feel like I slowly build my vocabulary.
Yeah.
Right.
And then to talk about stuff. That's like, if you can actually really create an original visual language, you can then retell the entire story of art history. You can retell the history of everything in that language, and other people don't even necessarily have to understand.
Right.
Do you know who? I'm gonna butcher this dude's name. Here you go. There's this guy, Kenichi.
Wa?
Kenichi Hoshin.
Ohayou
gozaimasu.
I know who you're talking about. Oh, what does he do? Yeah, I know who you're talking about, though. Yeah.
I don't know. What does he paint?
He invented like a brand new way of painting.
How? I mean,
it's
Should we bring him up?
pull him up, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the name, but
see, I mean,
what he does.
I'm pretty sure I'm saying his Hoshine or Hoshin.
Kenichi Hoshine.
For all those who want to know how to look him up, that's how he spells it or says it.
I've never seen a painting that looked like that before.
Well, I've never seen a painting that looks like any painting.
And that's what I'm saying. But when I look at this, I see Greek ceramics.
Okay.
Right?
It kind of looks like what's the Icarus or whatever, you know?
Yeah. It feels Greek. It feels like ancient Greece.
I forget who did those like paper cut art. You know what I'm talking about? Who did like the Icarus flying to the sun? Is it Icarus? I can't fucking remember.
Paper cuts?
He did that like paper cut art where he's like Icarus. I don't fucking know. Why am I the one? You guys are supposed to fill me in on that. If I know the painting, you guys for sure know the painting.
It is Icarus who flew.
No, there's like a famous, like, I think it's like paper cut painting. Some artists out there yelling at you too for they already know my situation. Yeah. Chopped, like that cooking show. This one, whatever that fuck, you know,
Matisse.
Yeah, don't look at me and say that.
That's another perfect example of a guy with a truly original idea.
You should be looking at Sergio and saying Matisse, not me. Was that paper cut? I don't even know if that's paper cut.
It may be paper cut.
I thought
it could be a lithograph too.
I'm like pulling from like my elementary school days.
Okay.
I'm like,
no, when you showed that Hoshine painting, the first thing I thought it was Matisse.
Oh,
actually.
really? Yeah. It does look like he's drawing on Matisse.
Well, original or not.
But that's what you guys were talking about before.
Someone just knock on our door. God damn it, man.
You need a little on-air,
exactly.
neon sign over your door.
Yeah, exactly. But no, what you guys were saying before about moving the conversation just slightly, I think that's what art is doing right now, where, I look at him and you're saying that, his work, you've never seen anything like it, but I've seen things that remind me of it enough to make me think.
Or it reminds you of other things.
What I think of art is like, I don't think it's ideas, but I think it's like new ways of telling stories. It's almost like religion. It's like
the artist creates a new way of seeing.
Yeah, I think so. And I think in that terms the idea is original. Like the idea of knowing a story or whatever that they want to say and then creating an original version of that.
Right.
Yes. And that's what I sort of refer to as when I say. Actually, the one I met Brett Amory.
I was just about to agree with you.
I met Brett Amory. I didn't know who he was.
Oh, did you meet him at 111 Minute?
No, I met him at a painting. Like we were painting.
Oh, right, in Oakland. Sure.
Yeah, and then after I met him, I went, and every time you meet a painter, you go home and like Google their shit. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
So I found and I was like, okay, and there were some interviews with him, so I like kind of, just browsed through the.
Right.
But he was the one who said, this is a quote, like basically a direct quote, where he said, someone asked him like, what changed your life as an artist?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, when I realized that the art world cares more about ideas than it does about technique.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. See, but that's an issue I have. Is like that's what I was that's why I brought up like the craftsmanship last time. It's like I think that's an important part that got thrown to the wayside, and I feel like that's a huge flaw in the art world. Like
I disagree. I disagree because there are people out there who are incredible.
Thank you, Sergio, for agreeing with me right before you disagree with me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm such a technique-based painter that, like, of course, I'm going to agree with that. But I mean,
but if you look at, there's so
bad
many
thing that the art world threw out technique for such a long time and just focused so much on concept for the longest time. That
I agree with you that sometimes it goes overboard one direction than the other. I feel
think
you
there's
there.
But the art world's also fragmented so much these days that there are places you can go and never have to interact with the other side at all, which is kind of weird too.
And I think
Yeah.
there is a balance to it. Like I don't think you have to decide one or the other. It's it's like this weird thing where it's like either you're on this side or that side, but it's like what the why can't you have both? Like why isn't there some fucking balance to this? Like,
and the people who are doing both are the people who excite me the most as artists
me
these days.
as well.
Yeah.
But you can have a technically
executed piece.
because when you talk about technique, I feel like you're referring to a certain kind of process of technique.
I
not
don't
Like a
necessarily.
representational technique.
No, not at all.
I mean,
Because
at
a
least for
painting
me.
can be technically, archivally, incredibly executed,
Yeah,
and have no
heart to it.
The other day I read a
Or
quote.
idea,
I read a
whatever
quote
you
the
want.
other day that said, "You have to be really good to hide what you know."
But this is what I'm saying though is I'm bringing up technique and it's like only you can be that one. Like I'm not trying to say you have to be like representational and like super that like I'm saying there is technique to like even the guy we're looking at, like I don't think he's a bad artist. Like I think it's good artwork. I'm not saying it's not good.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is that there is this weird thing where technique is thrown to the wayside, and I don't mean it's like the second you.
But there's like an incredible amount of technique.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
it's like the second you bring up the conversation of technique, it's like well, you mean this, and it's like no, I'm saying like why isn't there a conversation of balance? It's like either concept is king or fucking technique is everything.
Right.
And you're like, there's a middle ground, like.
Yeah, you brought up Konevsky earlier. I feel like he's a good middle ground there.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
He's a great middle ground because there's nothing like his paintings aren't going to fall apart.
Do you guys know that artist? It's something English, not
Ron English?
not Ron
It's
English.
like Kim English.
Wait,
that
is
I've
Ron
heard of.
English? He's the pop art guy.
Yeah.
No, it's I think John English or some. Got it off my phone.
Oh, John English.
Johnny
That name
English.
sounds really familiar.
Let
John
me look
English.
it up. I might be wrong, but I knew Ron English was gonna make me always forget this guy's name.
I know of a Kim English, but he's a plein air
Johnny
painter.
English is the
He does-
Rowan Atkinson character.
He does like a lot of
Mr.
like,
Bean is a spy.
okay. Johnny English.
Johnny English.
Mark English is an illustrator. I should know that name.
Mark English. Does he
Yeah.
do like horses?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Yeah, this guy.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And his
Yeah,
work
he's
is like
awesome.
really amazing.
Yeah, that
Uh-huh.
horse one's pretty crazy right there.
Which one?
That horse one that's like down on the
This
second
one?
row is pretty crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, he does these like
That's
amazing.
interesting.
I like how you snickered at my horse comment. And then you see him and it's like, dude, there's this blue one he did. This one right here.
Nice.
Look at this fucking thing.
Yeah.
God,
Oh
I
shit!
wish-
We were just in Carmel. Should have went to the gallery that has this shit in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Thanks a lot
I've
for
actually
Sorry.
I've been in that gallery.
Jones and Terwilliger.
Oh God, this mouse is like not working well. But yeah, his work is like technique and fucking God, why is the control button's like stuck? All right, I think I got out. Whatever. I don't give zero fucks though. My computer's dead. R.I.P. computer. But he does like these, like this is like, you see that piece there. He uses color in a ways that I feel like almost like kind of make me think of what you were talking about earlier about like this religious thing. I think.
Okay.
Which one? The one right in the middle?
It's very Fauvist.
Or like.
Yeah, I think it really into those guys.
I think like like Andrew Hem.
Yeah.
Like
I've been super into Andrew Hem lately.
The reason he uses colors, I feel like, is like religion. Like it's like that spirit. It's like that spiritual thing without having to be iconic. You know what I mean? Like there's something magical about the way he uses colors.
Yeah, there really is. Yeah.
That I think artists. That's one of our great advantages is the ability to use colors in a certain way.
Yeah. There's a certain way that artists can use colors that really invoke emotions. I think the best people at color really understand that well. I think Andrew is one of them.
Yeah,
and you and Uglow.
Yeah, and I'm not like that big into his work.
I thought
you said this weird.
I thought you said you and Uglow.
Like you and Uglow. Yeah. I think that's how you say his name.
Ewan or something like that.
Ewan Uglow.
Like Ewan McGregor.
Ewan Uglow.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Who, you? Like me?" I was like, "Thank you." Just kidding.
You and Uglow.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. That was just random. But yeah, I think like his work
like
in general.
Mostly, I'm saying like if you all the technique in the world, won't matter.
Yeah, but
if you don't have any original ideas.
I agree. I agree with that part. I'm just saying that I feel like the technique has almost been like thrown to the wayside. Like it's almost like
sure, postmodernism and it has, and many people were actively trying to not use traditional mediums. Some people still are trying to actively not use like mediums in a traditional way. Do you know? Have you ever seen Sarah C?
I don't know. I'd have to see her.
She does like assemblies, like site specific construction, and her work is really amazing. She uses
like Goldsworthy kind of shit.
No, but actually, I just watched a documentary about Andy Goldsworthy, and I was kind of like, I walked into it going, "Yeah, Andy Goldsworthy, like whatever."
Sure, I'm a big fan of him.
But then I saw it. Dude, that movie made me like love him. I saw the movie.
I've never seen it.
Oh, you should watch it. It's amazing. It made me love him. Like that's a really inspiring movie to watch if you like, if you're kind of like, that's one of those things if you're ever like stuck, like you feel blocked or anything, or you're just like, you don't want to go in the studio, watch that movie.
I think Goldsworthy is like this good example of where like technique mixed with concept is great. Like he has great technique and he has great concept.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good place. I just think there's this like easy dismissal of like technique, and I think this all started because I was saying like the value of certain things, certain art forms are, I think, more accessible to the broad range of the creators in certain forms, where certain art forms they almost like limit the amount because the concept or these gatekeepers or whatever the fuck it is, they get to control the deciding factor of who becomes the fucking whatever. And I think the big ideas with a lot of those people aren't really that big. I just think they just had a new way of conveying whatever message has been done before. And I think the reason that is because technique has been thrown to the waste. I think like if we just still respected technique, not saying it has to be the end all be all, just a part of the conversation, I think that allows the artist to survive. Like that allows the artist to like the fucking millions of great artists on Instagram to really survive off of their art. Because I think the technique is the bridge to the layman, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I also think that people, when they come out from the concept side, looking at technique, and they kind of put it in this box of like, oh, when you think of technique, you think of, you know, what you're saying, representational art, like do a realistic painting in grisaille and everything like that. But when I look at like Mark English, that looks like a type of technique to me.
Yeah.
That's a certain way of painting. That's really exciting as well.
Yeah, no one's looking at that and saying he doesn't know shit. Like, I just think
I look at that when I look at work. You know, I can tell if someone has like a command over their medium.
Yeah,
or
I
not.
think so.
You know, either they do or they don't. Yeah. And you know, and then either some people will sometimes I don't know. I could start bagging on people and being a hater, but
I think
you're
like
here for.
That's what
I think there's like many tools to the artist toolbox in some cliche ass fucking horrible phrase, but I think the two big ones are like concept and technique, and I think when you remove that fucking tool, it just becomes like a weird. Like why would you fucking
sure? Because if you have no concept and you only have technique, you're a copy machine. You're a photocopy machine.
Yeah, you're doing painting.
You could do a medical, or you could do like a illustration of like the parts of an engine, or a medical illustration, and it's incredible. I mean, it's incredible
for sure.
It can be anatomically
useful,
perfect
probably.
and everything, but it's not. It's not really. It becomes mechanical.
Right. It's not inspiring.
Not so much art anymore.
Yeah. Or if you're not really working with the human spirit,
right,
your work can become just really repetitive, and you're kind of forced to really sort of like piggyback off of other people's ideas,
right,
and then you become like a different kind of copy machine,
right.
And if you may have great ideas, but if you don't have the ability to develop techniques that where you can execute those ideas, then you're just somebody who has thoughts in their head and never does anything about it,
right?
You know, but like Sergio was saying, like it is like when I think of technique, there is it's a process where you want to make a certain kind of statement, and you have to develop a technique in order to allow that statement to kind of be said in the best way that you can. And
for sure.
Maybe it is true that there are no new ideas under the sun, but I believe that that's why I was kind of saying, like, if you can develop a really interesting sort of singular personal language, you can retell all those stories.
But see, I think
in a way that is really fresh and affects the way people interpreted those stories before. Like, you can change the way people looked at. You can paint in a way now. You can do sculpt or whatever in a way that changes the way that we look at older work.
Right.
You see it in music a lot, where somebody makes a song that it changes the way that we look at songs it changes the way that we hear music that we used to hear, because of the way that it uses music.
Right. For sure.
And no, it's not necessarily a 100% original idea. So I agree with you when you say, you know, maybe there are no new original ideas, but I believe that the artist's purpose is to make or help people see things to take them out of their sort of mode for a minute. Almost like a shaman would. An artist can pull people out of their day-to-day. You know, they can completely stop someone in their tracks. You know, with a painting, you can stop someone in their tracks. Whatever they're thinking about, they'll stop thinking about it, because you've created this doorway to an image that's so powerful that they're like, they just are stopped in their tracks. I've seen it happen. It's happened to me. And that, it's not a new idea, but it's a new way of seeing something. You know, and those ideas are more important than when in the quote that I was actually quoting. I believe that the reference was to like the technique of like rendering. Sure, really good draftsmanship will wow the general populace,
right?
Really easily. It's almost like a cheap trick. Like if you can render something really, really well, people will go,
"Well, it's not
wow,
cheap; it's
like
expensive."
It
takes a shitload of time to do that.
You can make it looks, and people say it's so lifelike,
right?
It looks just like an actual,
right.
dog or whatever.
But if you think of like, for instance, Norman Rockwell, right?
Yeah.
Very realistic. You can call it a cheap trick or whatever, but he was very much connected to the time. Like I think one of the important things.
See, I think Rockwell to me was always quite cartoony.
Yeah, for sure.
did,
Exaggerated,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But there was definitely some paintings where he turned up the fucking realism, didn't exaggerate so hard. And I think there is this essence of his time. And I think that is like what I think art isn't like. Art, I think, speaks of the time very like, and tells the story, but in the time, like it builds on the tradition of art, and it adds its own time stamp to it. And I think that is like, for me, that is like the artist's like goal is to like capture,
to embody an era,
and tell almost the same fucking story, but just with how we tell the story, and we build on the techniques and the traditions and everything of the art, but we just do it. Like if you think about all the artists that you really enjoy in the past, I always think like they captured that time period, like
the spirit of the age.
Exactly.
Yeah, the spirit of the age.
I think that is like one of the most important things. And I think when we start getting obsessed with certain, like, I don't know, trends or fucking what the past lined out as good art, I think we're kind of fucking up a little bit. Like we're not even like, there should be a shitload of paintings about hipsters. I mean, there should be. Fuck.
Well, here's the transition. This website that Sergio, or this Instagram that Sergio showed me the other day, it's like who is who?
Who's who?
Who's who?
Right.
I mean, that is like basically 700 photos of hipsters.
Right.
It's hipster
Kinda.
art, man. Like a lot of it is hipster art, and it's
I mean, I can almost imagine it without even seeing it.
There is absolutely hipster art out there
For sure.
I mean, it is.
Just think
what
of
it is.
Tinder in art form.
Yeah, I mean, there's like
Is it Tinder? No,
there's
not
like
Tinder,
yacht rock art.
Pinterest. That's the one I was thinking of.
Pinterest art.
Pinterest is an art form, and you'd be like, okay, I can imagine that. It's like,
I just got Pinterest like 3 days ago.
have you seen?
Really?
I still don't have it.
I just got it.
They always like fucking every time I click on an image on Google search, they're like log in Pinterest. I'm like, fuck.
Oh,
See, that's what happened to me, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll set up a Pinterest account.
Yeah, I know.
And
But,
I'll start. And actually, I pinned a pinned, right? That's what you call it.
I don't know.
Of paintings of Andrew Hems,
Oh, yeah.
because I was looking for. He used to have like hundreds of pages of sketchbooks up,
Mm-hmm.
and he removed them.
Oh.
Have you guys? This is a
And
random,
I really wanted to look at them because every once in a while I like to look at them.
This is a random question, but have you guys noticed that a lot of the photographers on Instagram or whatever have been like exaggerating like these turquoise and salmon colors, like hard? Because I've been thinking I can show you guys some stuff afterwards, but because I've been like trying to mimic like with like the images I take of like the models, I'm trying to like mimic the color scheme of like childhood in my head.
Oh, all right.
So is it like the red green light?
Yeah, it's kind of like aging it, but with like a modern picture.
I understand.
So then I can paint it and kind of capture that like feeling of childhood. I don't know how to explain it.
Well, it's so funny you say that about the color scheme thing, because like there's a thing that I do I've been doing for a couple years now, where I take Pantone colors, like whatever the Pantone color of the year is, I take as a challenge, like I'll do a painting in that color. So last year was actually 2 different colors, and it was called Rose Quartz and Serenity, and Rose Quartz is like a pinkish salmonish color,
right,
and then Serenity is like some like teal bluish color.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if they just like, a bunch of photographers found like Pantone color of the year, and they just started doing stuff off of it.
You were like ahead of your time.
But what I'm trying to figure out is like, should you like embrace, like, because I'm thinking like, you know how like I said earlier, is like the artist should like really capture the time, you know, like and do you embrace like that fucking like everyone's like this color scheme is now like somehow like capturing the time? Should I embrace that, or should I be like, fuck that color scheme, I didn't choose that shit? like because the childhood is like based off of like, it's not only based off of like pictures, but I'm also trying to like really think of my childhood and trying to like
are you trying to paint the Wonder Years, man? Wonder Years.
In a way, but also like not like, I'm also trying to like capture like my childhood, like and what the fuck that meant. It's like it's like for instance like the rollerblades of the time, like they had those fucking neon yellow and neon orange ones. Do you remember that?
Yeah, fruit booters.
And then and then like
that's what if you had a skateboard during that time.
I remember that.
You called those people fruit booters.
And then we like, it's just like,
I remember
I'm literally just trying to think of my childhood and like colors, like, so photographs obviously are the easiest source to pull from, so you get to like mimic those colors, but then it's like, what colors do I tie in that really mean something to me, like based on like my childhood, like the neons or the fucking, or like I lived near a Caltrain, like the railroad track, so I always saw Caltrains every fucking day, you know, and there's certain things that like that mean things to me.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, you remember when Instagram first came out, it was the big thing was making it look like Polaroids.
Right.
And that was, you know, kids our age coming up with that. I think it was a lot of that, like trying to make it look like our Kodaks that we grew up with.
Yeah, I think so. And then we had this like deck that was painted with like this shit brick red, and that like, you know, that the chip, that I would like peel away the chips, because it was like layer upon layer upon layer, and so you'd see like this green come out from like
I love that
totally
stuff.
I love that.
Like there's an awesome texture to it now if you look back at it.
And so it's things like that like I'm trying to like obsess about right now. Just for on the color aspect of things. I mean, it's not the overall narrative. It's just like a little part. It's almost like, it's kind of like the Wonder Years. It's like I appreciate, or like any like Steven Spielberg movies or whatever, where he captures like the color in the movie is just the subtlest thing that just adds something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know? Color is super important.
I think movie directors are really good at that. Like the ones who pay attention to that are very good at that.
Yeah.
There's a really cool Instagram called Color Palette Cinema.
Oh yeah, I think and you may have told me that one, actually. Did I? You might have been the one who told me on that.
They take a scene from like a film, and then they write like the film and the director, and then they break down. There's like a strip of like all the colors that are used in that shot. And it.
Charlie Chaplin really overused his color scheme, I thought.
I know. Like, so many different types of blacks and whites.
Change. Do something new, man. But yeah, that's cool. I gotta check that out.
It's pretty neat. Like it's a cool one to follow, because you get these like ideas of color schemes and how different colors look next to, you know, there's a lot of color theory in there when it comes to film shots. And
I have to pee bad. Can I do it on a pause, or should I can go? You guys keep talking.
We have like a 3-hour podcast going on right now, so but there's gonna be editing, right?
Yeah, no, I mean we're at 2 hours.
Yeah, man,
2 hours, probably like an hour and 55 without once we cut it down.
And all the P-Rex.
I can hold it.
We really didn't talk about anything, which was cool, actually.
That's exactly what we've been doing as of lately. But I can hold it. I'll survive. Bladders, schmatters.
But I was going to say, back to what you were saying about like visual language, that the artists that I like the most, even throughout history, are the people who did come up with their own sort of visual language. Like Mucha's one of my all-time favorite painters, and his whole shit was just like
Mucha.
Yes, however you say it. All of our Czech listeners, please tell me how. But yeah, I think that the way to get your visual language to where you want it, I think a lot of it is just refining your technique to a point where you've discovered something within yourself by practicing like the fundamentals of art enough that you find something in yourself through it. At least that's how I feel about it. That's
You're
my
wrong.
hope.
You're wrong.
Well,
Thanks a lot for that, Sergio. You're totally wrong. I'm just kidding.
Podcast over.
Yeah, I was gonna add in there that we kind of started going that way, but that it's. I've looked at enough paintings. I'm sure you have too. Where
Too many.
if you see someone who is not in command of their medium, whatever it is,
They don't get a follow from me.
you can tell. You can tell.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and it always kind of.
But you're an artist. That's the thing, though.
Yeah, but I mean it.
That goes back to like that podcast I
But
was
this
talking
is
about with that art historian. She like literally her life is art, and she still says shit where you're like, God damn it, you don't even know fucking technique. Like you only know concept. You didn't even take time to learn.
Well, she's a historian.
I know. That's why I said earlier, like they should learn how to paint at least a little bit to like understand the technique of things. Like that's the issue I have is like they're like, oh, she'll say something like it's something magical, and you're like, that's an easy thing to do, and then she'll like throw away things that are really tough to do, like they're bullshit, and you're like, you just praised garbage. You just were like, this is amazing, and you're like, no, it's not that hard. You just don't know.
Okay.
You know, and it's like it's like, why do I have to value your opinion when you don't value the technique that the artists have to build? Like you don't value that enough. You only value concept, and I don't think that's everything. I don't know, whatever. That was
no, it isn't. Concept is not everything.
Yeah.
And
I mean, we agree on. I think we all. agree.
Yeah. There is, and we kind of summarize it. That there's this balance between.
Yeah.
But I mean, people can kind of abandon.
And I think
traditional methods.
Yeah.
When they have the enough command of those methods to be able to abandon them in a way that still makes sense. Yeah. Because I see work, I see when I see a lot of like amateur work, it has it's obvious that whatever that person is trying to do, they're really, really working past their ability level.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know? Whereas then there's, it's like you see there's an amateur person will make a portrait. Mm-hmm. And like the nose is kind of off. It's like just not in the right place, and the ear is kind of in the right place, and you're like, whoa, like you went into such detail over here, and you did all this rendering, but all your stuff is kind of in the wrong place, and it looks the way it looks.
The face is in the middle, and the head is this big.
But then you take or the face is actually in like a 2-point perspective, but the nose is sort of. Those vanishing points are off angle, and it's kind of flat, or it's the eye is drooping on one side, and it was brought to a point of like high level rendering, but none of the
it was
actual
a drawing of Johnny
construction.
Depp, so it's still art.
It was Johnny Depp's drawing, so it's still considered to be really well.
Or that sculptor of that soccer player, you remember that? Did you ever see that thing?
I saw the Saturday Night Live.
I didn't see that.
Oh, whoa! You have to watch what do they call the nightly news portion of it?
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about.
They do
update
the daily update, weekend update.
Yeah, we nailed that.
They do
three of us.
They do an episode about that piece. It is incredible. It's hilarious.
I gotta see that.
But then but what I was like, there's that thing where you see work where the person doesn't really have command of their medium.
Mm.
But then you look at like somebody like Elmo, who
the Muppet?
No, Emilio Villalba.
Okay.
That dude can put a nose wherever the fuck he wants.
How dare he?
And it looks right.
Drink up.
Because he has
Aussie.
that background of technique, you know,
Yeah.
He has the ability to take that technique and then use it and play with it, but know exactly how far to go.
For sure.
So that even if the thing has 3 mouths, there's an eye on the end of the nose, and it's got 2 ears that are off way over here,
Right.
it still looks right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's the balance of technique and
Right.
idea. Like, it doesn't have to be rendered well. It doesn't have, you know, whatever you choose to path to go down in art making, technique, understanding of technique
a tool.
is an incredibly important tool because it gives you this holistic kind of understanding of where problems occur,
Right.
Yeah.
how you can solve them.
Yeah. It's
You know?
it's like sometimes you don't need a fucking hammer to build a table, but goddamn, you need it. So like, and if someone doesn't have one, I'm gonna judge them for that. It just that's what it comes down to. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I know what you mean.
and that
I
just
know what
is
you
a
mean.
point. Like, you can make an amazing painting or have a body of work without
Yeah.
having technique, and I will be like, wow, that's fucking amazing. That doesn't mean that you didn't lose a point. You know, for me, like I might judge you still.
I know
Well,
what you're
what
saying.
I'm kind of saying is that, like, I can see a work that can appear as though it has no technique,
Right, for sure. Yeah.
but I can tell that it does.
Yeah,
like
I
I
think
can
so.
tell that person
Yeah.
paints
Yeah.
the way, you know,
And I totally agree with that.
or sculpts the way that they sculpt. But you know for damn sure
Yeah.
that person could render you just about anything.
Yeah, for
at
sure.
any time, no problem.
Yeah.
you know.
That goes back to this artist. Like, his old, like, 20 years ago stuff is like fucking really rendered
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, and representative. But but he does this now, and you can see it without having to see his old work. You can just see it. You can see, fuck, he's good. Like, his work now is way better than it was then.
Yeah.
You know, but at least to me. But it
But he has that
But he has that
foundation
hammer, yeah.
of, you know, like, he has that foundation of knowing, because it's kind of like all those steps that happen in your head. Like, you used to have to plot out a lot of things,
right.
or go through all the building blocks, but now you see it. And there's so much thinking going on behind those movements.
Right.
That's one of those things where it was like, well, how long did it take you to paint that?
Right.
Well, I've been painting for like 30 years, so about 30 years.
Right. Yeah,
It took me and plus or minus about 2.5 hours.
exactly. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and
For sure.
and it's like, but all the work that I did in this, I did it for like 20 years. And now I just am a lot quicker because I don't have
Exactly.
to, you know.
Yeah.
But that to me, it's like, I don't know who said this quote. I just read it the other day, but it was, you know, you have to be really good to hide what you know.
Right. I think you said that already.
Yeah. I wish I could remember who said it, but it was a really, I wrote it down because I was like,
My
back
God
in school.
knows.
Your God knows. Yeah.
God knows. My God knows.
I just have to ask him, but I only come to him with my deepest, darkest needs. All praise Google. But yeah, I mean, I think this is the podcast.
Yeah.
We did
We've
it.
done it.
Thank you so much for doing this
We hung
again,
out.
Jason.
Yeah.
We ate tacos.
The audio better not fucking suck this time. And yeah,
It's that rest on my shoulders.
I think this has been Waiting to Dry. If you're still listening, go check your painting. That shit's probably dry right now. And get back to your technique and ideas and fuck off.
Yeah, go work.